perfect. You want, as EP's option A, dark revenge and shocking karma. Got it. Here's your full 3,000 word, single block, 20-minute Reddit style story script in first person following your requested structure and tone. 2, I never imagined I'd live to see the day my own son-in-law would look me in the eyes and demand money just to spend time with my grandkids. The words that came out of his mouth felt like a knife to my chest, sharp, cold, and humiliating. If you want me to bring them over, he said, his tone casual but cruel. You'll have to pay me for my time. Can you imagine? Paying a man to see your own flesh and blood. I sat there, trying to process the audacity. I thought maybe I'd misheard him. Maybe it was a bad joke, but the smirk on his face told me everything. Tell me honestly, what would you do if someone you helped, someone you treated like family, suddenly turned your love into a transaction? Would you walk away quietly or make sure they learn never to cross you again? Because I didn't walk away. I made sure he'd never forget the day he tried to sell my grandkids to me. To explain how it got to that point, I need to take you back a few years, back to when my daughter, Emily, first brought Ethan into our lives. Emily was my only child, my world. After her mother passed, it was just the two of us. I did everything for that girl, worked 2 jobs, skipped vacations, saved every penny so she could have the kind of life I never did. She was bright, kind, and had this spark that lit up every room. Then she met Ethan. He was charming at first, too charming actually. The kind of man who talks fast, laughs loud, and always seems to have the right thing to say. I'll admit he fooled me too in the beginning. He had a decent job in tech, or at least that's what he claimed, and he treated Emily like she was the only woman on earth. I wanted to believe he was the one for her. They got married a year later. I helped pay for the wedding, of course. Not because I had to, but because I wanted her day to be perfect. Ethan insisted on a big fancy venue, something out of a movie. And when I hesitated at the cost, Emily squeezed my hand and said, Dad, don't worry. He's got this. But he didn't. Turns out most of the bills fell to me. I should have seen it then. The pattern, the manipulation, the easy way Ethan shifted responsibility onto others. But I told myself love was worth a few sacrifices. After the wedding, they bought a house. Or rather, I helped them with the down payment. Ethan said it was just a temporary boost and that he'd pay me back in a few months once his bonus came through. That bonus, of course, never materialized. I didn't push it. What mattered to me was that my daughter was happy, and for a while she was. Then came the babies. First Lily, then Noah 2 years later. My grandkids became my heart. Every weekend I'd drive across town just to see them, bring little gifts, bake cookies, help with chores, all the stuff grandparents love to do. But slowly, I noticed something changing. Ethan started controlling everything, who could visit, when, for how long. He'd make excuses like, the kids are sleeping, or we're busy today, even when I could hear them playing in the background. Emily started looking tired all the time, quiet or nervous. I'd ask her if everything was okay, and she'd always say, yeah, Dad, just a lot on our plate. But I could tell she was lying. I started to see cracks in the perfect image they projected. Then one day, Emily showed up at my house with the kids crying. She said Ethan been losing his temper a lot, yelling at her for small things, accusing her of spending too much time talking to me. I saw the bruises. Faint, but there. I wanted to storm over there and beat the man senseless, but she begged me not to. He's just stressed, she said. He promised he'll change? Against my better judgment, I backed off. She moved back in with him a week later. After that, my visits became rare. Months would pass without me seeing my grandkids. Then earlier this year, Emily called. Her voice was shaking. She said Ethan had lost his job, but was refusing to tell anyone. He was gambling online, drinking more, and accusing her of being ungrateful. I offered to help with bills, groceries, whatever she needed, but she said Ethan wouldn't allow it. The next time I called, he answered the phone and told me not to interfere. We're fine, he said, before hanging up. A month later, he showed up at my door. That's when he made his disgusting proposal. He said, look, I know you miss the kids. Emily's been busy. If you want me to bring them over on weekends, maybe we can arrange something. You know, for Gaz, my time. Inconvenience. He actually had the nerve to call seeing his own kids an inconvenience. My hand started shaking, but I played it cool. I said, oh, you want to be paid to bring them over? He nodded, smiling like he just struck a business deal. That's right. You pay me, I bring the kids. Simple. That night I sat in silence for a long time just thinking. I could have exploded right then and there, but instead I decided to play his game and beat him at it. I told him I'd agree to his terms, that I'd compensate him for his precious time. I even asked him to put the arrangement in writing just for clarity. And he did, signed his name at the bottom of a little note saying he'd bring the kids every other weekend for a set amount of cash. That piece of paper would become his downfall. The first weekend he showed up like clockwork, smug as ever. I gave him an envelope just like he asked. He stuffed it in his pocket without even counting, too busy checking his phone. He dropped off the kids, stayed outside, and left. But what he didn't know was that envelope didn't contain cash. It contained something much more dangerous for him, evidence. Inside was a small audio recorder and a note. The recorder had captured his voice from earlier. The moment he'd made his offer to sell access to the kids. The note simply said, thanks for confirming your arrangement. This will help with the custody hearing. You see, I'd spoken to Emily privately after his little stunt. She'd finally reached her breaking point. The gambling had gotten worse, the drinking unbearable. He was using money from their joint account to fund his addiction, and he'd even pawned some of her jewelry. She wanted out, but was terrified he'd take the kids. That's when I told her to let me handle it. With that signed note, the recording, and a few bank statements she found hidden in his drawer, we had everything we needed. But before we went to court, I wanted Ethan to dig his own grave a little deeper. The next time he came over, I handed him another envelope. This time, it had some cash, not much, just enough to keep him satisfied, and another tiny recorder hidden inside the flap. I asked him casually, "So, you're okay with this arrangement continuing?" He laughed. "Of course. It's easy money. I should have started charging you years ago. That was all I needed." A few days later, Emily and I went to a lawyer. The moment he heard the recordings and saw Ethan's written agreement, he nearly laughed out loud. He said, "You realize this makes him look like he's selling parental access, right? That's going to destroy him in court." And it did. When Emily finally filed for divorce and custody, Ethan tried to play the victim, said she was turning the kids against him, said I was bribing him. But the moment our lawyer presented the evidence, the judge's expression changed. He asked Ethan if he'd really demanded money to let their grandfather see the kids. Ethan tried to deny it, but the recordings didn't lie. His own voice echoed in the courtroom, clear as day. "You pay me, I bring the kids." The judge called it emotional manipulation and parental exploitation. He lost custody immediately, restricted visitation, only under supervision, was ordered to attend counseling and pay child support. You'd think that'd be the end of it, but karma wasn't done with him yet. Turns out, while all this was happening, his gambling debts had caught up to him. He'd been borrowing money from sketchy people, and when they realized he couldn't pay, things got ugly. One night, someone broke his car windows and spray painted TF across the side. He called Emily in a panic, begging her to talk to me to convince me to help him get back on his feet. She didn't even reply. Meanwhile, my grandkids were thriving. Emily moved into a smaller house near me, got a job at a local design firm, and started therapy. Lily and Noah came over almost every weekend, just like before. We baked cookies, played board games, watched cartoons. Everything I'd missed. Sometimes Lily would ask, "Grandpa, why doesn't Daddy come anymore?" I'd smile softly and say, "Because Daddy needs some time to think about how to be kind." Now, before I tell you what I did next, I want you to think about something. Imagine being in my position. A parent watching your child suffer because of someone's greed and cruelty. Someone who tries to put a price tag on your love for your grandkids. What would you have done? Would you have gone to court, fought back quietly? Or would you have taught him a lesson he'd never forget? Think about that for a second. Tell me in the comments whatever you would have done. Because what I did next, well, some people would call it revenge. I call it justice. A few months after the court ruling, Ethan reached out to me again. He showed up at my doorstep, thinner, desperate, eyes sunken. He said he'd lost his job completely, that nobody in town wanted to hire him after the court case went public. He begged me to loan him some money, said he was about to be evicted. I let him talk. I just listened, calm and patient. Then I went to my desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out an envelope. His eyes lit up. "Thank you, sir," he said, trying to sound humble. "I'll pay you back. I promise." He left before opening it. Later that night, he called me. "Furious. You think this is funny?" He yelled. Inside the envelope was a single $1 bill and a note that said, "Payment for your time." As agreed. I hung up the phone without saying a word. That was the last time I ever heard from him. Months passed, and life finally felt peaceful again. Emily and the kids were safe, happy, rebuilding. I still kept that first envelope, the one that started it all, framed in my study, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A reminder that sometimes standing up for your family means outsmarting evil, not just fighting it. So, was I wrong for what I did? Some people might say I went too far, that I should have just let the system handle it. But the truth is, if I hadn't taken those steps, Ethan would have kept controlling my daughter and those kids. He thought he could manipulate love, turn it into a business transaction. But love isn't for sale. Not mine. Not ever. If you were in my shoes, would you have done the same? Or would you have let it slide to keep the peace? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious how you'd see it. And if you think Ethan got exactly what he deserved, hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories like this one. True, shocking, and a little bit satisfying. And remember, sometimes the best revenge isn't loud or violent. It's silent, smart, and signed in ink. I'll see you all in the next story.